Coach, I'm going to start with you. And boy, there's a lot to digest from this one if you are a fan of Michigan. There's some ugly numbers right here. Down 35-0 in the third quarter. Outpossessed by 22 minutes. 4 turnovers, only 40 yards rushing. Where do you start looking to find what is wrong?
First of all, congratulations to Coach Christ, and that's an excellent team. Yeah. We undervalued their skill. That's an excellent Wisconsin team. Very balanced. What you have to look at, the fan and the people look at that game and look at the Wolverines and say, what's the problem? Let's just blame the players, blame the coaches. That's not the case at all. There's good players in that program. Every year they recruit. Every one of those players on that field are highly recruited guys. Every one of those coaches, not the coach. There's a problem there. You have to lift up the hood and find out what is wrong. Because it's easy to say that guy can't play, that guy can't play. That's not true. Those guys can play, or that guy can't coach, that guy can't coach. Sure they can coach. You want to be at that level. There's a problem there, Charles. You lift up that hood and you're not going to like what you see, but you better get that fixed fast.
Right. And it's interesting to hear you say that just from a coach's standpoint, because you've coached teams before, and so you have to look at a team and figure out what is going on. But just from my standpoint, I'm not a coach, but just what my eyes tell me from playing the game of football, it didn't seem like there was a lot of detail in this game from the Michigan Wolverines football team. And for me in particular, defensively, like I seen guys that were out of their gaps. You know, they didn't play very disciplined football. I saw them standing flat-footed at times when they should attack, and attack sometimes when they should sit back and read. And it just seems like we talked about that bye week, having 2 weeks off to prepare for a team. It looked like they had never watched Wisconsin football before. It's like you see pullers, and guys aren't reading the pullers and showing up in the gaps where that ball is going to run. Like, I'm not understanding what's going on. You talk about look under the hood. This does not look good, man. I'm right now. I don't even know how to talk right now. What I could say wouldn't be the right thing to say because it'll be my emotions. Yep. So what I'm telling you now is kind of what I see on the surface. And when I get home, I'm gonna say some different things. But right now, man, I'm sick about how Michigan football looks right now. And I came here on this show, man. This is my first weekend on Big Noon Kickoff. And I came here with high expectations for how my team was going to look in front of you guys. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm embarrassed. Mm-hmm. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed about that.
I think the thing that hurts the most, you talk about the little details, one thing that my eyes are seeing is there's no juice. There's no energy. I don't care if you go back to Army or whenever you've watched this team this year, and maybe it's symbolic of Jim Harbaugh and how he's leading them as their leader, as their head coach, or it's something to do with the leaders in this locker room on this team, whether it's Shea Patterson, Cleek Hudson, whoever else. But there's no – I mean, this is a big game. You're coming off of a bye. It's on the road. You're going to be challenged physically. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they're going to challenge you as a man. How are you going to stand up against it? I think that's the toughest thing for me is I don't see that energy. I don't see that enthusiasm that, Coach, we've always talked about, the best teams you had. Reggie, you always bring it every time we talk about that. You've got to have that in order to be able to combat that and be successful. So that's missing to me. And then I think the other thing, just for Wisconsin, to touch on that, this is a complete football team. And you look at their schedule, they've got a rough stretch where they have to go to Columbus, Ohio on October 26th, then November 9th versus Iowa, and then have to go to Nebraska November 16th. But this is a team that's going to be playing in the Big Ten championship game. I'm going to say it right now. And for Michigan, the only thing they can do is those players, those leaders in the locker room, the coaching staff, they're the only ones that can believe in themselves being able to get to that Big Ten championship game. So redemption for them, it comes November 30th when they play you-know-who, as you talked about in the pregame show. And that's the only way they can find salvage this season.
And the one thing that gives me a little bit of hope from this game is if you watch the end of the game, the way their offense performed, they went out there and they did some of the things that we talked about earlier in the day. Get the ball downfield to your playmakers. Allow those guys to get up and go up for the ball and make plays for your team. So we put up a couple of points late in the game, and so that kind of gives you a little bit of something to look forward to. But overall, today, I mean, this team has to go back to Ann Arbor, and they got to really look in the mirror, and they got to say, what do we need to do as a team? And I'm talking about individually. Yep. Each man on the team, each man on the coaching staff. What do we have to do to get better, to take this thing forward? And we got to win next week. Yep. This game hurts, but we got to go win a ball game next week, and that's just bottom line.
Well, how do you fix that, though, right? Because to me, it looks like in order to dig yourself out of the hole, you got to first put down the shovel.
It's a hard film.
Right?
It's a hard film session, and I mean, it's pointing guys out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going in that film room when we meet as a team. We got to actually go over specific plays, and we got to say, hey, look here, young man, this is not going to get it done. Yeah. This is not what we coached you to do. Yeah. Like if we give you, I talked about having tools earlier. If we give you the tools and then you go out there and do something different, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
And I can't put you on the football field. Yeah. So if there are guys out there that are doing the wrong things and not doing what they're coached to do,
can't win with them.
We got to get you off the field, and we got to put somebody in there that's going to do what we ask them to do.
And I think two notes I put down was holding each other accountable and leadership, and that's something all of us up here have been a part of great teams, and great teams have great leaders, and great leaders hold the team accountable, whether it's a players-only meeting. We had a couple of those at USC. So they have to look within and figure out. The problem is who are those leaders on this football team? I think, Brady, to your point, but let's talk about Wisconsin just for a second. This is a great football team. And, Coach, you talked about in the pregame, if they're a balanced team, they're a championship team. And I believe that Jack Cohn gives them balance throwing the football.